Actually, I'm good.
Hello, are we recording this time?
Yes, we are.
Thank you for figuring the system out. I think we've changed systems like 10 times since I've been on this commission. And
Yes, and as I've been helping out in this position, I think it's been 3 times. And so,
I think we've also used the same system for very extended periods of time. And one day, just like it won't work. So,
thank you for understanding.
all right, it is November 20th, 2024 at not 3:29 p.m. That clock is way off. 4:02 p.m. and we are beginning the this month's meeting of the Heritage Preservation Commission. We will start with the roll call.
Emily Dale,
Present.
Abby Buckham,
Present.
Alicia Hayes,
Present.
Duffy Westheimer,
Here.
Shelley Day. She's excused, and she's also getting off of the commission. Amy Horn
Present.
and Bernadette Burcham is excused. We have a quorum.
All right. We will now move on to the land acknowledgement read by Commissioner Westheimer.
The Heritage Preservation Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you. We will now move on to public comment. If there are members of the public who have a comment on an item not on the agenda, this is your chance. Someday it will happen. It'll be very exciting. So we will now move on to the approval of the meeting minutes for October 20th. Unfortunately, that meeting failed to record, so the minutes are sort of bare bones. But if anyone saw any errors or problems that they would like on the record. Anything? All right, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 20th.
And a second?
I will second that motion.
Oh yes, October 16th. I'll amend the motion to say October 16th. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and if we could get the meeting minutes from this month changed. Thanks for knowing how days work, Duffy, because I did not. All right, we will now move on to our public hearing item, Historic Science and Facades Grant for Lumberjack Pizza.
Before we move to the public hearing,
Oh, yes.
can I move up a miscellaneous?
Oh, yes.
So that I can make an introduction. So I've been giving you all a monthly update when I can on the filling of the Heritage Preservation Officer's position, which is now called the Senior Planner Comprehensive Planning, and the HPO duties are part of that job. And I'm happy to announce that someone has been offered and accepted the position, and she's here tonight. So I'd like to introduce Lauren and get her a chance to come up and introduce herself. She'll observe tonight. She's not actually starting the position until December 9th. But probably next commission meeting will be the last one where I have to act like I know what's going on.
Yay.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am Lauren Clementino, and I know a few of you know me already. I'm currently working at the library as the reference supervisor, and I have a master's degree in historic preservation and did historic preservation, cultural resource management work for several years before switching to the library full-time in a variety of capacities, starting with the Park Service and then the Arizona state government and the California state government as well, and then in town here as a consultant for Cornerstone. So I'm excited to work with all of you in a new capacity. And as Sarah said, it'll be effective on the 9th, so next month.
Well, welcome. Any questions or anything?
I have a question for Sarah, but welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Debbie.
Sarah, why If you have someone who actually knows a lot about historic preservation, why was that aspect of the position moved to the back burner?
It is to create consistency, so every planner is appropriate on the pay scale. So senior, there's 3 levels of planners basically in the planning department. There are planning managers, which is people who supervise. There are senior planners, planners, and associate planners. So I guess there's 4 besides Michelle's position as director. And so when we had called it the neighborhood planner, there was a reclassification of senior planners. And even though we had always said this is a senior planner position, by not having those words in the description, it didn't get reclassified. And so we had to ask for a special reclassification. So due to the way HR is doing classification work, we need to call it the same thing it's getting called in other parts of the Planning and Development Services Department, or it can get missed in some of these comparative market adjustments that are happening on a regular basis now, which is good news for staff that we're having regular market adjustments. It just means some of the titles have to be more consistent.
Can
So
I
the-
just clarify too that none of the duties didn't get put in the back burner?
Yeah,
The duties haven't changed as they were under Mark. It's just, as Sarah explained it, it's just the reclassification so that the position is paid appropriately, especially because it is a dual position as both the neighborhood planner and the historic preservation officer.
so now the title of the job is Senior Planner Comprehensive Planning, as opposed to like Wesley or Ben, who are the Senior Planner Current Planning.
Any other questions for? All right. And you told me to add this at the top and I completely forgot. So let me know if there's anything else I missed. All right, now we will move on to the Historic Signs and Facades Grant for 104 East Route 66, or Lumberjack Pizza.
Yes. A certificate of appropriateness was approved for the canopy repairs and facade repairs at 104 East Route 66 last month. And so Bob Harris is here, who's the contractor and property owner representative. They've applied for a grant for that work. This is a level 1 grant, so it's a $10,000 match for the $20,000 total of work. It does meet the criteria of being public facing, and it meets all the criterias of the downtown overlay, as you already determined with the certificate of appropriateness. So I will let Bob speak and answer any questions you have, unless there are any questions for me.
I think just one thing I want to clarify is there is a note later in the agenda that Yogair has ceded their grant, so we do still have funding in the grants facade to meet this.
Yes.
And still have enough for maybe one more or half of one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there will be, even after this grant, if you choose to award this grant, there will still be $15,000
Yeah.
left of grant money to award for the rest of the fiscal year. And we'll go over that in the grant update.
Yeah, I just wanted to put it up right front that this is not like, needs to be like the last one.
Correct.
Yes, Bob, we would love to hear from you.
Great, thank you. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to have an opportunity to speak today. I haven't done one of these in particular, so I'm not exactly sure if I'm presenting or just answering questions.
If you have a presentation, we've seen the building plans in the certificate of appropriateness last month, but if you had, a diagram you wanted to go over or anything like that, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so spoiled on planning and zoning. They put together really nice presentations, so I wasn't sure what to expect. We are basically wanting to, as stated in our documents, refresh the facade. There was an incident that initiated this, and so as we're wanting to make these repairs, we're wanting to make this something that's more appealing, that's more historically accurate, if you will. I mean, something that just looks better, is more durable, and fits better in the environment. So the upgrades to the sign perimeter, the supporting posts for the awning that are in need of that are in disrepair, and general roofing repairs that are connected to the historic stone facade, and then also making repairs to that stone facade where it has been oversprayed and got paint dripped on it and there's holes drilled in it. Trying to bring that back to look nice again.
Great. Questions or comments from commission?
So I did not know that the ADOT controls that sidewalk. So has all of this been approved by ADOT already before we do a grant?
Yes, it has. We've spent better part of a year working on this with ADOT.
Other questions? Is there anything you wanted to add, Sarah?
Nope, this one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I drove by it not long after our meeting last month, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just missing 2 posts now, just like driven right through. So it'd be nice to see it back up.
Where-
And I assume the plans haven't changed at all since last month. I don't know why they would have, but
No,
They-
it just, this only
they
adds
have
the
not.
requirement that the HPO will be reviewing receipts as well as the design itself when they go to building permit. So it's really not that much of a change.
all right, great. Any last questions or comments from commission? The screen's doing something weird.
I assume you want to see the recommended action.
Yeah, I mean, I have it in front of me, assuming other people do. But I just wanted to make sure that it's not affecting the recording or people online's ability to, like Amy and Alicia's ability to see what's going on.
I don't think so.
Oh, there it goes. All right, if there are no more questions or comments, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve a level 1 historic sign and facade grant for up to $10,000 covering stone repair, new canopy post, and repair of the existing canopy at 104 East Route 66 Lumberjack Pizza.
Just quick clarifying question. Did you want us to read the requested action or the recommended action?
I think that Commissioner Horn's action is fine as long as she adds that the work conforms with the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, Commissioner Horn, would you like to finish your
Got it.
sentence?
With the condition that the work conforms to the approved certificate of appropriateness.
Great, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have 2 seconds. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Be nice to see that very public facing structure get fancied up.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for coming, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right, we will now move on to general business. Our first item here is the listing of 101 and 103 North LaRue to the Flagstaff Register of Historic Places.
Yes, thank you. So I've had a very exciting few weeks with this case because I got to dust off a really old part of the city code that we have not used in a very long time. And the reason that we're here with this case is that in 2017, the property owner, which is Lip's property, Barry Leviton's property, they had purchased this property in the late 90s and they started doing extensive repairs on the building. And this building, the back end of it is in the 100-year floodplain. So when they applied originally in 2017, the HPO at the time, Carl Eberhard, and the Stormwater Division looked at the federal standards, which usually require that you can only improve a building up to 50%. You can only invest in a building that's not conforming with floodplain standards up to 50% of its assessed value, unless it meets an exemption. And one of the exemptions was eligible buildings for this that would be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So in 2017, this building was eligible but not listed. And so they provided the exemption. I guess in very late 2020, those rules changed and it said that exemption can only be applied for listed buildings. So a lot of the work between 2017 and now has made the building more eligible and easier to list. It wasn't originally listed in the railroad addition overlay because there were a bunch of facade changes in the 60s that were inappropriate to the district. Those have all been removed and it looks much more like its original appearance in historic photos, including we had conditions in 2021 that the stucco be smooth the way it looked in historic photos. We did a lot of review of that at the time. But the state has come to do an audit of stormwater permits, and they found that we approved the second set of improvements in 2021 after the rules for FEMA had changed. So this is an audit correction. So we need to carry out this process and get it listed on the local register so that their permits can basically be corrected. I have no doubt that this building would be eligible for the National Register. It's just that that's a very long process, and we have 90 days to correct this auditing issue. So we dusted off our local register, which has procedures in our Title 1-21. So it's so old, it's in Title 1. So I want to take you through these requirements a little bit so we can explain, because we have not done this in more than 20 years. We probably haven't done this in 30 years. So it says that we have to determine eligibility, which we have. We already determined eligibility of the building in 2021. We have to provide a nomination form that includes at least photographs of the property, the name, location, the owner address, a physical description, a statement of significance, and additional documentation. It even still calls this body the Historic Sites Commission, which we don't have. You're the Historic Sites Commission. You just have a different name now and a different authority. So
Sarah, real quick, can you zoom in a little bit more?
Yeah, let me see. There we go. Okay. So what I actually ended up doing to create a form that we didn't have was I went to the National Park Service website and I pulled the form 10900, which is the form you use to get on the National Register. And I made it a little slimmer, not entirely slimmer, but I pulled down some information. I made sure that these minimum requirements were included. And then I also had to but I figured if the property owner for some reason wanted to go for the National Register in the future, having it be as close as possible would help them have a smaller step to head in that direction of going to the State Sites Committee. So that's work we had to figure out this month. It does say that we have to have written permission from the property owner, and that was provided in your packet. I know Mr. Leviton is not here today, but he has reviewed the packet. He's reviewed the application and he's given written permission for it to be submitted by the city on his behalf. He can withdraw it if he wanted to, but I think given that we're trying to correct an audit issue, that seems very unlikely. And then it provides guidelines for nomination. But really these guidelines for nomination are only about districts. They're not about individual properties. I have put this application together as if we were listing this individually because I think if we wanted to consider expanding the railroad edition, that would maybe be a National Register issue. Like we probably would want to send that to the keeper of the National Register and not address that locally. There's no requirement that this be listed at the federal level and FEMA rules. There's no requirement this be part of a district, just that it be listed on a local register. All right, so here's the part you have to do, reviewing by the commission. So today you have to appoint a 3-member subcommittee. I did check this. It can't be 4, it can't be 2. We have to have 3. It says, and this committee will be appointed for a term of 1 year to review all nominations. I don't think we'd have any other nominations, but we've never had this subcommittee before, so it might be something we just turn into our November check-in and appoint in case it's needed. But that committee has to be appointed and meet on the application, which we can talk about the application today. I attached it and we agendized it. But they actually have to meet at a separate meeting between now and the next regular meeting. So if you volunteer for this subcommittee, I will work to schedule a meeting with you in the first 2 weeks of December. I'm not going to try and do it before Thanksgiving at this point. And then you will help to go over the application with me. And we will come back in December, which I think, let me check dates because Duffy's better at dates than me. December 18th is our next regular meeting. And at that time, you will vote to recommend or not recommend the application to the city council. And then the first meeting in January is when the city council will get this same exciting presentation and get a chance to vote to add it to the register. And it's a simple majority vote for you as a commission. The last step in the process is that within 30 days of acceptance, we have to take the resolution that city council approves and go record it with the county recorder on the property. So the legal team is already working because obviously we haven't created a resolution like this in 20, 30 years. And so they are also figuring out what that resolution and the recording document should look like. But we can proceed with forming the subcommittee and reviewing the application. And, you know, in case you'd never opened up this part of the city code, there's a little surprise in there for us.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
One, so are you saying nothing has been nominated to the Flagstaff Register in like 20 years?
Yes.
Weird. It's just everything, they just go straight to the National Register?
Correct. We've done
Okay.
everything through the Arizona State Sites Committee, at least since the early 2000s. And I think there was probably a period in the 80s and 90s where we took everything on the local register and sent it to the keeper.
Okay.
And well, you have to send it through the Sites Committee to go to the keeper. And so I think we did all of that. And then we just said the local register is the same as the state and national register, which is that's how Carl explained it to me when this particular set of duties came into my shop. But we still have the ability to have a local register, which lets us resolve this issue in less than 90 days, which helps us keep this building that has gotten in better condition, a historic condition, has more integrity than it did in 1987 to meet these standards.
So there is that. What is the benefit to an owner to be in the Flagstaff Register other than for stormwater issues?
I think that's the only benefit at this point. To get the property tax reductions or to get the tax credits, you have to be on the national register. You can't just be listed on the local register, but the FEMA rules say the local register is adequate. So it might be that we just start seeing these as stormwater only, where we have eligible buildings that aren't really ready to put in a national register nomination, but we can give them the flexibility to keep investing in their properties without having to bring it all up to floodplain standards, which sometimes, I mean, prior to 2020, it was really hard to meet the National Register standards and the FEMA standards in the same building. That's easier now with the guidance that was issued in 2021. So there's less of a conflict, which might be why they changed the criteria.
And am I correct in thinking that the Flagstaff Register predates the National Register?
No.
Okay.
But we do have the oldest local register in the state of
Okay, maybe that's what I was
Arizona.
thinking.
Yeah. But it didn't predate the National Historic Preservation
Okay.
Act.
I guess my other question then too, in looking at the form is, and maybe I'm misremembering this, I thought the Flagstaff one had 5 eligibility criteria instead of 4.
I didn't
Like things
create-
could be, because I was very confused one of my first times here reading through one of the archaeology reports, and I was like, why are they going through 5 things?
Yeah, I think that's in section, that is in the cultural resource study
Okay.
requirements in Title 10. So that's in 103030. And so yes, there is an extra criteria, but it's not in our local listing criteria. It's in 103030.
Okay, I
So-
was just seeing if we needed to add that, but it sounds like that's something different.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily an issue. At
Okay.
least it wasn't with, I have been reviewing this with the clerk and the attorneys because obviously haven't done it before. So they said that's not a big issue. So,
Okay, cool.
Chair, I would like to note that Commissioner Hayes has her hand up.
oh, thank you.
It's here, Commissioner Westheimer and then Commissioner Hayes.
So I am curious, like, are there any requirements on the owner when they're on that register? And then I have another question, but well, that one first and then.
If the owner, I mean, the owner is already in the downtown overlay. And so they're subject to all the downtown overlay requirements. They have to come in for certificates. If somebody did a whole bunch of unpermitted work, we could maybe delist it, but then they would also lose their stormwater status. So there's kind of a double jeopardy there, but there's also not a procedure for delisting in the code. So that would be another, we would have to work real hard to figure out if that was possible and how. It's very clear in the code that the owner can withdraw their nomination if they want. But there's not a clear like delisting process. So I don't know that if we put it on the list, it's on the list, it's already in the overlay. So it's gonna stay within its historic integrity or have improved integrity, just because our regulations would require that.
Commissioner Hayes?
Yes, I have a question about the floodplain. So is a lot of the downtown area there then within the floodplain?
There is a significant portion of downtown and of the railroad addition and the south side neighborhood that are in the floodplain, in the 100-year floodplain. Yes.
Is that expected to change with the proposed Army Corps of Engineers rerouting or modifications to the Rio de Flag?
When the Rio de Flag flood control project is completed, then we would go back to FEMA and remap the floodplain. It will be reduced, but it is not going to be totally eliminated everywhere. And so without a hydrology study, I can't really tell you whether the building would continue to be in or out of the floodplain in the future.
Thank you.
Another question is, how does this relate to the floating landmark district that we have?
So the landmark district is an overlay zoning district that the overlay does not meet the FEMA requirements. Listing does. So this is already in the downtown overlay. So it is in an overlay. We don't put landmark overlays on things that are already in other historic overlays. But that downtown overlay is not sufficient to meet the stormwater permit standards. They need a listing. Is that helpful? I know it wasn't a direct answer, but.
Other questions?
Sarah, can you just reiterate what exactly will this subcommittee do or be responsible for?
Sure, let me go back to, I'm totally going off what's in the code. So it says that the subcommittee is responsible for, and I'm going to pull this up so we can look at it, is responsible for reviewing all nominations. Nomination form provided. Okay, wait. These are the guidelines. We don't need to notify anybody. Okay, administrative procedures. Wait. Oh no, here it is. Submission of nomination forms. It says their duties are they will report on each nomination at the next regularly scheduled commission meeting regarding compliance with criteria for admission to the Flagstaff Register of Historic Places. So basically you're going to review what I just pulled up here, which is this form, which admittedly I plagiarized and downsized. And then we can make edits to it. We can write a little report that says we think this complies with the requirements. They're very skim requirements, but we can look at it also with National Register criteria and decide whether or not to list the building locally. Like you're basically coming back and making a recommendation to the rest of the commission.
Okay, so we would meet separately with you, go over the report, discuss it, make changes, and then create a new report to present at the next meeting?
Yes. And I think the report, when you use the word report, it doesn't always mean it has to be a written report. It can just be like the committee, subcommittee reports out verbally in this context.
Okay, so we just basically kind of give a little presentation or whatever at the next meeting, stating our findings and what our suggestions are.
Correct. That's what I believe it's asking us to. As I said, no one's done it in 30 years. So we'll take a little liberty and do the best we can.
So this is in the railroad edition, right?
It is not. It is
It is
out.
not.
It is adjacent to the railroad edition.
It like it goes around it?
The line for the railroad edition goes north of the Weatherford along Aspen Avenue and then turns on LaRue and goes north. So only the buildings on the east side of North LaRue are in the railroad edition. So that whole block that this is a part of is not in the railroad edition. It's a little more complicated if we wanted to have a different local boundary for a National Register district than the National Register has, and that's why I didn't recommend that we create a separate boundary and pull it into the railroad edition. If that's something we'd like to work with the property owner to do, we could discuss that as something to send to the state committee.
I would just guess that so much was lost in the rest of that block that they just kept it tidy.
Well, I also think this building had a lot of, that mansard roof and all of those things that have been kind of pulled off of these buildings over time. Those all existed all along the block here in 1987 when the initial inventory was done for the railroad edition. So I don't think this building had it may have been significant and old enough, but it didn't have the integrity to be included in the district at that time.
Well, that sounds like something for down the road if the owner decides that they would like it on the National Register for all the tax breaks and stuff. That could be part of the conversation of where does it need to go in Flagstaff's downtown. All right, any other questions about this process? Well, I would like to volunteer to be on this committee. Oh, never mind. Duffy has a question.
I have a question. So we provided a certificate of appropriateness for some remodeling that goes on. Is that going to affect them at all? I mean, it got an appropriateness certificate, but I'm just wondering what the connection might be for them between being listed on that local register and making modifications upcoming, like changing the entry like they want to do.
The certificate of appropriateness that we have done are all have removed, they have been removing the non-contributing features of the property. So we haven't really had any applications. I went back and looked at all the applications since 2017, and they were all kind of improving the historic condition of the building. So for instance, in 2021, they opened up the walls, and where there were still 3 historic, I guess, multi-paneled windows, they reopened those up. Where they were not there, they did other kinds of windows to distinguish between the two. So everything they have done, at least since 2017, I don't know why it's not showing up anymore. I'm gonna try a different tactic here, has met the National Register, has met the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. So yeah, so it really shouldn't be a problem, but the subcommittee, if they would like to go over the previous approvals, I'm happy to pull that whole packet together. And that maybe is something the subcommittee might want to spend a little time on.
Yeah, I think that would be great because I remember this property coming to us a couple of times, and like they found some murals, I think, behind some of the walls when they were redoing the stucco, and so those got like preserved underneath. And I think we got something where they were going to build like transom windows to do like street dining. So yeah, I think a packet of just like everything that has gone on and come before us would be great.
Yeah, we can pull that together for the subcommittee meeting.
But yes, like I said, I would be happy to serve on this committee. I've got some stuff of my own I need to nominate to the National Register. So seeing how at least a local process works would be great. And also just, it's been fun watching this property improve over the past 8 years I've been here, so. Any other, we need 2 more. Oh, does someone have a comment? Please don't comment. Those can't be part of the record, but Commissioner Hayes and Commissioner Horn have their hands up. Questions?
Interested in
No, I was
serving
just
anything.
I was just going to volunteer to be on that subcommittee as well.
And Commissioner Hayes?
Same thing.
Is that an appropriate? 3?
I think you have to make a motion to
Oh, okay.
appoint them as appoint the 3 people who volunteered as a subcommittee.
Okay. Someone besides the people who volunteered, if you could.
I would like to make a motion to approve the subcommittee comprising of Emily Dale, Amy Horn, and Alicia Hayes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And thank you, subcommittee.
Great. I'll get in touch with you about scheduling that.
Yeah, asked Sarah, I was like, does it have to be 3? What if 4 people want to do it? And she's like, no, that's a
Yes.
quorum. You
It's
can
very
do it. That's like, makes sense.
But this was fun. Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. All right, now let's get an update on the historic sign and facade grant with the congratulations that the BBB tax was renewed.
Yes, that is very exciting. Things are running around here. Okay, so I actually have some breaking news in addition to our little update here. So the Sego Lily House has submitted all of the required receipts, and so we've also started the reimbursement, the check cutting process for Sego Lily. We have gotten that as well for Sunset Drive and 302 East Route 66. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at 302 West Route 66 in here, but I went over and took a good look at it, and they actually have hired a muralist to come do all the hand painted signs. And so she's redone them, like traced over them, made them really, really nice. So I think that's, I think those were faded and peeling and hard to see. So really, if you remember all these curbs that were damaged, they retained the old historic doors and just repainted them nicely.
Can you pull up the photos? Or
Yeah.
are you doing that now?
It's not sharing, huh?
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. I was like, you're referring to something.
I am.
Yeah,
referring to
sorry, what
something.
property are we talking about?
The garage. They did
The
that
garage.
fast. I
Yeah,
feel like we just saw that.
We just saw that 2 months ago, but look, you can see they've hired a muralist to do all the sign work. Yeah, they were very fast. They came in right away for a sign permit. This is the front. You can see there used to be all this damage here, and now there's much less. There's still that little bit, but so much less damage to the curbs. This is a service station, so it's not fancy historic preservation work in a lot of way, but really well done. So got all the places where there was repointing needed. That was all done. Here you can see some close-ups of, you can even see all the rivets on the windows still. They just look really nice. They are working on getting the planters filled again because there's several in the gas median and everything like that. Here's the muralist working on their new sign, which you can see brings the same lettering into the, I think this is the Eldon side of the building. So that we didn't pay for this sign because this is a new sign, but just wanted to show you, she was at work at the time. And so she did a great job. She's from Valle. So yeah, that's the one that's been done there. And then another fun mid-century modern one is our second grant reimbursement. I don't have Sego Lily on here yet because they just got their receipts in today. They'll be on your next set. Let me pull this up and share.
I love seeing these photos. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is, also it's telling the story of the BBB funds too. So important overall. 1 second. So you can see this is a funky corner lot in the north of Hospital neighborhood. There's their original siding. This is the new siding. You can see it's closer to what was there originally. It's looking much better. This particular type of siding is the kind that Mark talked about that it wasn't even in production for a long time. And now people are making it again to help restore these 1950s and 1960s homes. So I went out and looked at it too in person, and like even the electrical outlet that's like right here is those round screw-in electrical outlets that you can't even use anymore, but they've kept it on the outside of the building. So it looks really great. Another good win. Then yeah, so then and the last thing is that the Yogurt application, which was over on 3 East Aspen, they've not been able to complete their work. Their grant expired in March, and the owner, I think she had a baby this week, so they decided to go ahead and forfeit their grant. And we did let her know that if she reapplies, it'll be noted that the grant had been forfeited once. And she's aware of that. Your grant guidelines do state that you can deny an application for a grant if it's a pass failed grant, but we've also given grants to people who had passed failed grants because they came back and tried again. So that'll be fully at the discretion of the commission. And we hope that she had an easy time with her new baby.
Sarah, do we remember kind of what was it that they a money problem or trying to find someone who knew how to fix the glass? Do we, bless you, know what the problem was?
So the couple things, the person who knew how to fix the glass was only available in Flagstaff seasonally. And in addition, they were hoping to get more funding. They've only been in business for about 1.5 years. So I think that it was a little more than they expected. I mean, those historic windows are still at risk. We would love to see them restored appropriately. But yeah, it is a specialized kind of stained glass work that it takes to do it. And so they may try again.
That would be nice if that happened someday. And this isn't really a sign, I suppose, but the CenturyLink parking gate or whatever on Aspen is up and it looks very nice.
It is. In fact, there is a ribbon cutting for it very soon.
That's the one next to the pay intake?
Yeah, I think right after, I think they're having a ribbon cutting because it's still missing a few panels right after the holidays. So, but yeah, that'll be a great place. I've already seen bikes tied up there. I saw somebody tied up their backpacking backpack and chained it to the bike locks. I mean, we have a lot of backpackers in Flagstaff, so, a great addition and a lot prettier than the chain link fence with the fleet. Probably the only other amendment I have to your report is that the 601 West Cherry has permits under review, and I think we're very close to approving their permits within their 1-year time frame. However, they have had some construction delivery delays, and so they will probably be coming back for an extension, but they are not expecting it to be a full year extension. They just need to let the winter go by and get all the materials they need for that project.
So where it says receipt submitted and inspection complete, that'll be removed?
I was talking about 601 West Cherry,
Right.
which is the top. Oh, yes, you're right. That was incorrect. I'm not sure why that was there. That is still permits under review. Yeah, that should be corrected. But
So-
that's the most recent communication. Annalise, who is taken over Craig's role in managing the receipts and working with the applicants, has been helping out and making sure that she's reaching out to them quarterly, like we discussed. And that's why so many got paid this month, is because last month she reached out and helped everybody finish the financial side of the process. So that we discussed that in September, I guess. And already that commitment is showing if we are doing this on a quarterly basis, we're going to get a better response and not have so many people asking for extensions. Some are unavoidable, obviously, but at least we have an early communication that we had a construction delivery issue and that it's about getting the contractor and the materials on site. So already a big improvement, I think, over how we were doing this before. And I see Commissioner Horn has her hand up.
Yeah, Commissioner Horn.
Only if you're finished, Sarah.
Oh, I am, yes.
I just wanted to chime in and say thank you for sharing the photos and the updates. It's really gratifying to see how the money's spent and that it's getting expended, and just to see the really nice results people are getting.
On that note, do you want to do a tour of Sago Lily?
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. So Sego Lily is in payment now. And if we wanted to schedule before one of our commission meetings, having a tour of it, we could agendize that for the whole commission. There's no rush if you don't want to do it in the middle of the winter, but
There is a rush because I'm going to sell that house.
oh, that's true. You are going to sell it. So if you'd like, I can put that on the December agenda, as is give an opportunity to actually meet at 3:30 at the Sego Lily House and have a walkthrough.
I'll be out of town, so.
Oh yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah, me too.
I'll just email
interested
Duffy
as
and
well.
go by myself.
Okay, good. If you're okay then with scheduling it for December, we can schedule a field trip for December.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. And that's all I have on grant updates.
So it says we have 25,000 left, and then with the 10,000, we have 15,000.
That's correct.
Cool. Great.
And we said if we run out of money, we would reopen applications in March. So it's really not that long. There's
Yeah.
only 4 months, 3 months maybe, if we run out of money next month.
Yeah, and we always give out less. We always get less applications during the winter anyway.
Mhm.
All right, any last questions or comments on the signs and facades grant? All right, we will now move on to the May Hicks Curtis House item.
Yes, so staff has been working. As you know, I'll do some background. As you know, the May Hicks House at 13 South LaRue had a phase 2 cultural resource study done a few years ago, 2022, I believe it was, which was preparing it for demolition. The Secretary of State and SHPO have helped get involved with the National Trust for Historic Preservation as well in talking about relocating the building. The city is taking the lead on that. So right now I have been working with the real estate manager, Bryce Doty, to find a temporary location for the building. And we are running against a clock here. So if we basically don't get everything in place to move the building before the owner is ready to demolish it, we will have to approve their demo permits and let them go forward. But this opportunity exists right now to save the building. It would become a city asset, so we would own it as a city government, and then we would have to figure out the more permanent solution to that. So by the end of this week, I will be applying for a Route 66 historic preservation grant from the National Trust. And in that process, the National Trust came back and said, we know that the 11 most endangered places has been closed already, but we would like to know if you want to participate in the 11 most endangered places application process, because they've started to review applications, but they're not in the selection phase yet. So we were asked, they reopened the application for us and asked if we wanted to put in a late application, which I also have to turn in on a Friday. And so that is the purpose of this next agenda item. Is I drafted a letter of support. I'm going to pull it up in Word so that if you would like to edit it, we can, for the commission, and would like to request that you endorse a letter that Chairperson Dale can sign before we leave, and that I can scan, and then we can upload with our application to the list. And if you don't know what the 11 most endangered places are, it's really a list that's used to bolster advocacy and lobbying efforts and help us get more grants. I mean, we're getting a small grant to move the building, but it's in not so great condition. There's a lot of rehab work needed. And we'll need lots and lots more grants in the coming years to be able to turn this into something that can be an asset in the district again. That'll be an exciting thing Lauren gets to work on in her new position.
All right, any questions as Sarah's pulling up the letter for us to look at?
I do have a question.
Mhm.
Will you be considering including the cultural resource study with the application? Because I think the letter could say more about why it's significant rather than just saying she's a consequential woman, because every town has consequential women. So I think it needs to be explained why, for not just Flag, as you said, but the state. So
Yes, the whole cultural resource study has already been uploaded to both applications. So we don't need to repeat everything in there, but we definitely can add anything that you feel is notable or that you want included. I really just wrote a bare bones letter for this discussion. And I'm going to share my screen now that I've got it up.
Yeah, I was also thinking the same thing. Just maybe one sentence about, I mean, if this is like a Route 66 thing, like, is this part of Route 66 and, all that kind of, just like 1 or 2 sentences, just really summarizing it.
Yeah, so the grant is Route 66
Okay.
related, but the list is not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
We can make those kind of remarks though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm gonna live edit. So you guys tell me what you want.
Okay.
And I'm gonna print it after this meeting and it's gonna get a signature because this is a fast turnaround.
Yes. Commissioner Horn, you've had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I meant to take mine down. I had just had the same comment about adding another detail, and I wondered what got submitted with the letter. It's the cultural resource report? Is there anything else that goes with it?
Yeah, there's a whole application that I have to fill out. So it's got, describe the significance, describe the risks, who are your partners.
Oh, nice.
If you get on the list, how will that help you leverage more funding or lobbying or rule changes? So one of the things, for instance, we listed in that application was having this on the 11 most endangered historic places list would let us lobby for the heritage funds to be restored so that we could apply for the grants that would let us do the capital work and restore the building. So this would be something we'd add to the city and the state's like the lobbying list, essentially, of things we're lobbying for at the state legislature.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that additional info.
I mean, I think just like one sentence about like what's the time period of significance, like why is I mean, in all honesty, I don't know who May Hicks Curtis Hill is. I'm not from here. I didn't learn local history, but just like, basic like historical movements or periods she's part of, just like a real quick summary of like, she was cool.
Yeah, that's actually, a lot of that's in the application.
Okay.
But it's, so tell me what you'd like added. Let me see if I can.
I think that if they read the letter first, then we need to inspire them to read the rest of it.
Mhm.
So we could say something about her having sewn the oldest existing Arizona state flag. And
She's the Betsy Ross of Arizona, but is real.
But I would also request you not use the photograph of the gun. There's another photograph where she's holding the flag open, and I think it's much better. I think the gun photograph is offensive to the times we live in.
I think the gun photographs include often because the map was sewn for a rifle competition, and those are pictures of her at the rifle competition with the flag. So they're contextual.
I get that, but there are other pictures that show the flag. It was a rifle competition, as we're told, but I'm going to say it again. We live in difficult times, and I think even Native American people could be offended by that by the rifle in the picture because they are Arizona residents by default, and there's a better picture of her holding the flag open, and I just think that's a preferable picture.
Yeah, I think the one with her, the one you're talking about is this one with the rifle, which is the one that's actually going on the plaque. But there is one of her as well holding the flag with Captain
it's
Harris.
an NAU's digital collection.
Yeah, it's with Captain Harris and I think her future husband,
Yes.
Frank Curtis. So this is what's on the plaque. So maybe this is a place to pull the information that you
Well-
would like from.
I had asked Mark to not use that picture on the plaque for the reasons I just said, but I think it was already designed.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a badass picture. 1900s woman holding a rifle. I mean, it's not like the Arizona flag itself isn't a symbol of colonialism, so I laugh. It's sad. Yeah, I mean, I think just, she's integral to the, development of Flagstaff during the 1900s. She sewed like the oldest existing Arizona flag, so she's important to just like I said, just like a real quick sentence of just like, hey, like we know what's going on. We're not just like signing on to this letter. Like we are invested in this as well.
So besides with her with Curtis designing quickly, I think like on a piece of paper what the flag should have incorporated, she pretty much completed the design and made the flag quickly. She's also was, if I remember right, the first employee of the Museum of Northern Arizona and one of the first entrepreneurial women in Flagstaff. A lot of her pictures are in the Klein Library. She was a photographer. She took a lot of the early pictures that you see sometimes referenced about Flagstaff. So she was a pretty interesting woman all around, and she was well educated, which is unusual for the times.
Yeah, she graduated from the normal school.
She
Yeah,
had
she
hold of that.
graduated from the normal school and got a graduate degree from USC, which was remarkable at that time. I think maybe some notable things I heard you say, Commissioner Hayes, to include is that she was the first employee of the Museum of Northern Arizona. We might include she was an assistant postmaster as well in terms of like formal roles.
There were 6
Yeah.
people living in Flagstaff at the time.
I think there were more than 6, but she was an
Yeah.
assistant postmaster, and she's credited with the only original physical copy of the Arizona flag in existence. Because there was another, Captain Harris's wife also sewed a flag, but that one has been lost. The one that's sitting at the Capitol Museum is the one sewed by May Hicks.
And I've heard Fontes refer to it as Old May, which I think is appropriate. I think it's a nice name for Arizona's flag. And it's likely she sewed that, from what I understand, in the room that has, oh, is that to the west side of the house where there's all those windows and there's a lot of natural light?
Yes, correct. She sewed it in this house.
Sarah, will you share the cultural resource study with us, please?
Yes, I can resend it out. I'm just gonna
Besides- Oh.
type and then I'll tell you guys what I'm adding based on this conversation.
Besides the potential for a Route 66 grant money because of location near Phoenix Avenue, the original alignment of 66 and the proximity, what about the National Trust grant for Women Who Make History?
That is another grant we could pursue for rehabilitation, I believe.
And her parents had a rooming house on Route 66. So that's another connection to just around the corner. The building that the developer wants to add on to was the Hicks rooming house.
Right, and they own the St. Anne's as well. So they own 2 rooming houses, which I think is where they lived originally, because this house was built after they had moved to Flagstaff and had been operating both of those businesses for at least a decade. So I think they then built this house, yeah, for her and her family later. So what I'm adding, let me share what I've adjusted here. Oh. is that I added some sentences. I said she's a consequential woman of history. I left this sentence that she contributed to the early history of Flagstaff in the areas of art, culture, community, and commerce. May was the first employee of the Museum of Northern Arizona. Assistant postmaster and a noted photographer. She sewed the original representation of the Arizona state flag, which is on display at the State Capitol Museum. And then I left the rest. Her family home is at risk of demolition with no further opportunity to delay. The city's working to move the building.
I think that's great. I think it really shows that the Heritage Preservation Commission is invested in this. And I think it also showcases how cool the Heritage Preservation Commission is in the sense, in the sense that like you guys have support to do this. Like we are a body that like cares enough to write this sort of detailed letter.
Sorry, who remembers that she worked at M&A? I didn't know that, and I didn't see anything on their website, so I was just curious if we were sure about that.
It's documented in the
Okay.
cultural resource study.
Oh, okay, yes, okay, I missed that.
It says
part,
she was
thank
the first employee of the Museum of Northern Arizona. So
I'd like to point out that there isn't a lot of places interpreted or recognition of women's contribution to history, and I think it's nice that women have some credit for what they helped do for early development of Flagstaff. And it's kind of interesting that we're all women on the commission and city employees who meet to discuss these things.
Another thought I had is it might be wise to not say within the South Side district, but just to say within another district. You could say maybe ideally the South Side, although that wouldn't necessarily mean anything to them, but you're tying yourself down and there may be other options that are going to come up as land is so hard to find.
we have created a list of potential permanent sites, and 2 out of 3 of them are in the South Side district. What really is giving us an opportunity is the Lone Tree Overpass will have some land that is left over post-construction, and that would give us an opportunity to maybe place it in the district still. So we really mean that, and there's a second land piece that could also be an opportunity on South O'Leary if we expand the boundary. So I can reword that definitely if we want to provide more flexibility, but there truly is a spot we've discussed. And yeah, we're trying not to get too nailed down, but I have sent them for the grant, at least I sent a list of our 3 potential sites. They're mostly interested in us keeping the relationship to Route 66. And I argued in the grant application, which this is for the list, not for the grant, that the district itself should be tied to Route 66, and because this is a Route 66 neighborhood.
And the sentence says the city is working to, not like 100% committed to. So I think there is a little bit of wiggle room in there to not do that. That the work didn't pan out.
I can also put this I was thinking, let me think on the spot for a second. We can just say the home is within the district.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that 1 or 2 of the boarding houses may have been Green Book properties. Do you know if that was the case?
Neither of these buildings were in the Green Book. Candace Taylor, who's a historian who's been working for the National Park Service and Harvard on Green Book documentation and listings, didn't find that either building was. The 2 buildings on Phoenix Avenue that were in the Green Book are the Knackard Inn, which is of course apartments now, and owned by the Lips Property Management, and the Beau, which is owned by by the McCulloughs.
Yeah, if I remember correctly from a lecture I put together like a year ago, Flagstaff didn't have many Green Book listed properties, and a lot of them entered pretty late compared to like when the Green Book got started.
When Miss Taylor was here, she actually said we have the most existing that she
Yeah.
saw in West Route 66, probably because they're a little newer.
Yeah.
And the floodplain has probably kept them from getting demolished and replaced over
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So there's, we have quite a few, not all of them are late though. I think there were places that had more listings, but many of those buildings don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Go us. High fives.
Wasn't there a second book like the Green Book?
There is a second book, but I don't remember what that one is called off the top of my head.
And Flagstaff has like a green book tour, like in a
Mhm.
map of existing properties that you can go on.
Correct. That was put together by Dr. Guthrie.
It's great.
And I think it was funded by the Beautification and Public Art Commission. So our partners in BBB funding. So is this the letter you'd like Chair Dale to sign today?
Could you read that middle paragraph or whatever you've made changes to, please?
Sure. The first paragraph I made changes to is May Hicks Curtis Hill is a consequential woman in the history of Flagstaff and the state of Arizona. She contributed to the early history of Flagstaff in the areas of art, culture, community, and commerce. May was the first employee of the Museum of Northern Arizona, assistant postmaster, and a noted photographer. She sewed the original physical representation of the Arizona state flag, which is on display at the State Capitol Museum. Her family home within the Flagstaff Southside National Register District and adjacent to historic Route 66 is at risk of demolition with no further opportunity to delay. The city is working to move the building to rehabilitate and preserve the building on a new site. I'll probably change that to it on a new site. The commissioners unanimously support these efforts and intend to publicize the importance of this irreplaceable historic structure and making May's story known at the community and the state level. We would appreciate the additional support that the National Trust can offer through the 11 Most Endangered Places program.
I have 3 little edits.
Sure.
There needs to be a comma after culture.
Thank you.
There's an extra space between to delay and the city.
Yes, there is.
And in the last sentence, it should say make May's story because we intend to publicize and make instead of making. Thank you.
A suggestion would be it's not the original, it was the oldest existing.
Okay. So wait, how do you want me to say it? I hear you guys talking back and forth.
The oldest known. All the things online kept saying the word extant, which I don't really think about in terms of physical objects. So
Any other changes? Does anyone want me to make a motion to authorize the chair to sign this letter?
I'll make a motion for the chair of the Heritage Preservation Commission to sign the letter to the Senior Director of Preservation Programs at the National Trust for Historic Preservation in support of listing the May Hicks Curtis House on the 11 most endangered properties.
I will second that motion.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We will now move on to reports. Any updates on the 2 approvals in here?
Yeah, it was letter report month. I feel like 2 months ago we had everything got hit by cars, and this month was suddenly got a host of letter reports. So we got a cultural resource study on a property that the State Land Department auctioned off 2 years ago and was purchased by Symmetry. This is an unusual way to get a letter report. It doesn't happen that often, but when state land has to put a property up for auction, decides to put a property up for auction, they go through a state consultation process. So they look at the as-site records and they do their own cultural resource review, and then they produce a letter that goes along with the property that includes conditions of approval. And so I, as the HPO, do not get to look at the site information, so I can't answer any questions about what was on the site or is not. All I get is a letter that says, here are the conditions that the State Historic Preservation Office has already placed on the property. And then I copy those and I paste them into the building permit information so that it keeps moving forward with the application. So that's super easy to review. There's really no review. I just take the findings as they are, because it's all done well ahead of auction. Just to explain that, I know that's come up with like Canyon del Rio and Pine Canyon properties, and sometimes those letters have kind of disappeared into history, but I'm trying to do a better job of capturing them and getting them in the right property files. The second letter report we received is, strangely enough, it's for a building that is over 50 years old, but really it's about setting them up for archaeology work, because this is a very simple single accessory dwelling unit that's sitting not even on a slab. It's really sitting on the ground. It has no foundation. And so it's had some structural issues, and they are demolishing it and then building a new ADU that has an actual footing and proper foundation. The site just happens to be on top of the part of Old Town that burned. So I don't know, I don't have a good idea of what's underneath it, and there could be artifacts from the historic original town site under this property. So we requested that they consult with an archaeologist. So it's an archaeologist writing a letter report on a building. Weird, but there we go. And they're basically setting them up to teach the excavator what to look for and to make sure they visit the site and ensure that if anything is found, it's provided, it's properly preserved and documented. So another really interesting one.
Sure. And I talked to the next door neighbor about this, and it does not show here that he gave that property owner a 4-foot easement on his property. So the city should be aware of the fact that that didn't show up here. It might not show up in the site plans and things that were provided to the city. So they're using his driveway, and that needs to be dealt with.
I will mention that to the associate planner who reviews the ADU applications. I haven't seen an ADU application for this recently, but what came in that triggered the review is they put in the demolition permit to demo the existing building. But thank you for bringing that up, and we can mention it, that to double check all the easements on the property. So those are the approvals for the month. I actually did 2 approvals today, but they won't be on your agenda till next month. Code compliance update. There was a self-reported code compliance issue at 3300 East Route 66, which is the Crown. Historically, it was a restaurant and hotel. It was purchased 3 years ago by Flagstaff Shelter Services, and they have been renovating it. They are obviously not restaurant entrepreneurs, and so when the current tenant left, they found a new tenant, and that tenant took down a bunch of lighting and historic signs that were architecturally integral to the integrity of the building without the property owner's permission. Your face looks exactly how my face looked 3 weeks ago. We actually just met with the property owner again today and are working on getting them a proper path to move forward and mitigate this. I have to do an extra special thanks to Kevin Dunlap from our code compliance team, who actually went to the landfill to see if he could recover the sign, which we were unable to do because a couple days had passed and it was already buried. But we kind of had like a hope that maybe someone had grabbed it for the scrap metal pile.
Call out the archaeologists to go dig it up.
Yeah, we don't let people dig in the landfill. It's really gross. But so this is a sad loss of integrity. The property owners said that they were flabbergasted, and it's going to come up to the property. The restaurateur also has a liquor license applications coming up, and it will be, the notice of violation is going to be included in their liquor license application, which goes to council and then the state as well. So we are following up on this. You will eventually see a phase 1 cultural resource study with proposed mitigation for this issue. I think everybody's very regretful and that there wasn't an opportunity to restore the sign, but the zoning code states that when you take something like this down, you've basically, without permission, you've basically terminated your nonconformance by demolition. So this was a huge sign. So it didn't conform to our current sign standards, and taking it down means you can't put it back up unless they actually physically have it to put back up, which is why Kevin went above and beyond and got the solid waste department to go hunt around the landfill and see if it was visible anywhere.
If they had an exact replica made, they couldn't put it up.
Correct.
What if I just like happened to find it in a ditch? So like they didn't take it to the dump. It just, this magical replica ended up in my backyard. I'm joking. I wouldn't do that.
I know it's not allowed by the sign code currently, and it also wouldn't meet the National Park Service standards. Kind of once it's lost, something like that, it's lost.
I just can't imagine being that tenant and being like, oh, I got this great restaurant space right on Route 66. Let me just start tearing signs off of it.
I mean, not everybody, people who go into business are not always aware of all the construction pieces of it. And we work with property owners and new entrepreneurs all the time to try and educate them on this. And we just didn't find out until it was too late for some of this. So
I know, but I feel like my first, like, I don't know, as a tenant, I'm always like, hey, can I paint this wall or can I move this? Like, can I change the doorknob? Like, I wouldn't just be like, let me just take down this very important, I don't know. Oh, well. Well, thank you to everyone who
the
worked on
good
this.
news on our educational process is it has been 5 years since we've had a code compliance issue that was just about 10/30/30. So.
And then anything on 614 West Santa Fe?
Nope, I was just providing you the permits that we've reviewed and approved. And if you have any questions about it, happy to pull it up.
All right,
And
great.
take a look.
Any other questions on any of the reports? All right, thank you for keeping us apprised, Sarah. We will now move on to miscellaneous items. Again,
covered the
welcome
first
to our
one.
new planner.
It
Yes.
sounds like we're going to have a field trip in December.
Yes.
And then we always ask if you would like to have a holiday party in December to celebrate your year of hard work. So that could be adjourning to a location where we can have some appetizers and time for conversation that's more casual. We usually just add that to the end of the agenda, but we can also agendize a quorum that's social in nature somewhere at some other time if that's inconvenient.
I always enjoy our holiday outings, so I would be in favor.
Yeah, I think I missed it last year, so I would like to go.
Chair Dale, did you say you'd be gone in December though?
I'm gone. I leave December 17th, so we could do it before that. If
Okay.
I am
Yeah.
coming, you could do it without me on the 18th. But also, if you're going to do the Sago Lily tour beforehand, that might be then a long meeting.
Well, and if you're gone on the 17th and you'd like to meet ahead of that, we could combine the Sago Lily tour and the holiday party
That would be fun.
as well. So it doesn't have to all be tied to the meeting. I'm just giving you options because we've got to get those notices out. So we'll have to notice the subcommittee and we're going to have to notice this. So I'm going to get to help train our new administrative staff who's going to be helping with this more in the future about putting out these unique notices.
Does that sound good to people? Pick a different day to do Sago Lily and then Gopher Hole is typically where we end up.
What about the 16th? It sounds like you're gone the 17th. If you don't
Is that
mind.
Monday? I could do Monday.
Yeah, there's Monday the 16th. There's the week before.
Yeah,
Are
that
you
works for
whispering the
me.
15th?
Oh, I was just saying Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, no.
I have to go to graduation that day. Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
might not want to go out on graduation weekend. Let me just
Yeah,
say,
Mark.
all the
Oh, good
restaurants and
point.
places. To do it.
Yeah, good
16th will
point.
work for me.
16th?
16th works for me as well.
We could meet at 4, just regular meeting time. I think or 5. I think we'd rather probably do the tour when it's daylight.
I have a conflicting standing meeting from 3 to 4 on the 16th, so I probably couldn't make it till like 4:15ish.
Do we just want to say 4:30?
Sure, well, let
That's
me
fine.
see if it'll still be light at 4:30.
Yeah, I was gonna say super light.
I can still see daylight vaguely. It's 5:30.
So on December 16th. And let's see.
I don't don't think it gets dark.
It says the sun goes down at 5:17.
Okay, I
So
was gonna say.
I think civil twilight doesn't start then until 4:45.
Okay.
So do we want to meet at 4:30 at the Sego Lily House? And then where would you like to have your holiday party? We've gone with Charlie's down in the Weatherford a few times, but there's other options as well.
Yeah, I
The
think
Weatherford is,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, upstairs is nice, like the
Zane
Zane
Grey.
Grey is also nice.
Sometimes they're not open though.
Oh, especially on a Monday.
Oh, no. They're closed Monday, Tuesdays now, so.
Okay.
What else is it? We could go to the pay and take.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy.
No.
It just has to be festive.
What else is down there?
And historic is nice.
Beaver Street's nice.
Yeah.
That's not too
Yeah.
far. What else is down there? It's always nice to get food.
It's up to you. We're not a big enough group to like make a reservation, so we'll just.
Yeah.
We just have to agendize it.
Yeah.
Even, you don't have to agendize the exact location. You can just say that there will be a quorum in the downtown area. And so you guys can actually think about where it will be.
Oh, that's.
It's like, come find us. It's a scavenger hunt.
If you see us, we're all above board. So yeah, so then we'll do the Sego Lily house at 4:30 and we will adjourn that field trip to a location downtown for holiday festivities.
Great.
Sago Lily is 615 West Birch, which is in the block west of North Benito on the south side.
Great.
Cool.
And then would the subcommittee like to pick a date
Oh, yes.
as well while we have all together for a few minutes, all three of you?
You had suggested the first week of December, correct?
Correct. I know the 4th does not work for me.
the 6th does not work for me.
Me neither.
Okay.
I
Do we
could,
want an evening time? Is that still what you'd like to do?
I mean, I think that's probably easier with a lot of our work schedules.
Yeah, like 4 p.m. or later. Like 4 p.m. would work well for me.
Yeah, I could do
We-
Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday.
I think Monday, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna look really quick. Oh no, BPAC is on the 9th. We could do Monday or Thursday after 5.
I'm
either
available
those-
Monday or Thursday.
Yeah, either those.
Yeah,
work
I
for
can
me.
do either of those.
Do you want to just do Monday then?
Sure.
Okay. Monday at 5, we will get we will get the subcommittee noticed, and I'm just gonna set it for an hour, if that's okay. Do you think we need more
Yeah.
time?
Just to clarify, which Monday is that? The 2nd or the
The
9th?
2nd.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes, and we'll
Yeah.
have read the report that's in this agenda before we come with notes and such.
Yes. Great, that's all the announcements I have for today.
I have one small one, Duffy, before you. So my term is up December 1st, but I reapplied yesterday, so hopefully that will all work out. And my first name is still misspelled on the website, by the way. That can hopefully get fixed if I hopefully continue.
And I think they said we still don't have enough applications for reappointments right now because there's 2 vacancies. They usually require we have 3 applications because they want to be able to choose. So if you can, if the other commission members can also help ask people to fill it out and apply to be on the commission.
And we need a
Which,
homeowner, correct?
I was gonna say, which positions are open?
I think Abby, are you a professional?
I'm a professional.
You're a professional and Shelley was a property owner. Oh, and so the next meeting will also need to elect a vice chair.
Yes.
So wait, will someone tell me if
Mhm.
I get, okay, okay.
The clerk will get in touch with you. Probably Georgiana will get in touch with you and say, congratulations, you've been reappointed.
Yeah, so if you would like to be vice chair and do nothing most of the time unless I can't come. you should do that.
We'll agendize that for the next
Yes.
meeting.
Think about it. Yes, and Commissioner Westheimer has a couple of announcements.
Oh, I have people ask me what's happening with the El Pueblo. Can you provide an update?
The hotel.
The answer is I don't know. I know that I too have seen there are some people on site. We've been trying recently to reach out to the property owner and not gotten any responses. I don't think there's any, I've not seen any new permits come in. And so
Have
not
their permits expired?
I don't know. Michelle, do you know if El Pueblo's site plan has expired?
I don't know.
I feel like they
check.
came to us like before COVID and then
Mhm.
everything got slowed down because of COVID. So
I know there was one extension. It's very likely expired, but we'd have to check that in ComDev.
Mhm. Yeah, we couldn't answer that off the top of our heads. I mean, they do have an outstanding issue for heritage preservation that they demoed the building that was structurally screwed up, the office that had the big mold issue. And they're supposed to provide an interpretive display on the code talkers on the property. So they've demoed, but they have not done their mitigation. That really, there's no lever for that until they want to get a certificate of occupancy or other building permits. So we actually cannot approve other building permits unless they're life safety related, unless they address their mitigation. And usually we would require that they show us that they have a contract to do it at the beginning of the process, and we just wouldn't issue a certificate of occupancy, which lets them actually occupy the new construction until the mitigation is in place. So that's kind of where we would be with building permits if they did come in for new building permits.
Do those requirements go with the land or with the developer?
They go with the land.
My other one is to ask what's going on with the old municipal works stone building at the end of Muggion. It has at least a dozen broken windows, which isn't a good thing.
Yes, there have been, Parks has been trying to get the building resecured. It did have a squatter for a little while. There's a lot of work going on with Parks and Recreation and Open Space and Events to try and move that project forward. They're very aware of the broken windows and that there has been damage to the building. So, yeah, vacant historic properties tend to be very vulnerable unless we fully secure them. That's going to be an issue with the May Hicks house too. So
Commissioner Horn.
I just want to let Sarah know, I just pulled up the board and commission's vacancies list on the Flagstaff website, the city website, and the Heritage Preservation Commission is not listed as having a vacancy right now.
oh, great. Well, we'll make sure the clerk knows that. Thank you.
And Commissioner Hayes?
I was just going to mention something about the old Pueblo. I had noticed last spring there was some more tieback put on the building, but that is all pretty much been shredded in the wind and it's very vulnerable. So if they don't do something going into this winter, I can't imagine that they wouldn't have mold or damage to the wood.
We can talk to code compliance about that as well. Because I know they put that tieback on and the fencing up to deal with a previous code compliance issue. So I have a meeting with code compliance tomorrow and I will bring it up.
All right, any other items from commission to commission? All right,
Thank you all.
let's go home. I hereby adjourn the Heritage Preservation Commission meeting of November 20th, 2024 at 5:30. Also, if you're vice chair, sometimes you get to bang the gavel. So keep that in mind.